Welcome, welcome. It's Samantha, and I need to talk about them that might make you uncomfortable. I feel like I keep saying that, but I feel like these conversations do make you uncomfortable. All right, but here's a question I want you to sit with. What if you never forget them? What if you move on, build an amazing life, heal completely, and you still never forgive what they did? Would that make you a bad person? Would that mean you didn't really heal? Would that mean you're bitter, stuck, holding a grudge? Before we go any further, if you're tired of being told what your healing should look like, hit subscribe, right? Because this episode is going to challenge something you've probably heard your whole life. And I want to make sure you catch these conversations that give you permission to do it differently. Welcome to the Beyond You podcast, where we have real conversations about healing, trusting yourself again, and building the kind of relationships that actually feel good. I'm Samantha, and if you've ever felt like you're just going through the motions, like you're doing all the right things but still feeling disconnected, you're in the right place. Because here we go beyond the surface, beyond the hurt, beyond the patterns that keep you stuck. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get into it. All right, let's dive in. Here's what I hear consistently in my practice. I know I need to forgive them to move on. That's what everyone says. I can't. I'm not there yet. Does that mean I'm stuck? And I always ask the same question. Who told you that you have to forgive them? Because here's the truth that nobody's saying: forgiveness and moving on are not the same thing. And you might need one without the other. Today, we are breaking down the difference between forgiveness and moving on, why you've been told you need to do both, and how to figure out which one you actually need to heal. So let's get into it, because I know that if someone has told you you need to forgive to move on, because I need you to know it's not always true, right? And it's time we talked about it. All right. So, where you know that we love to be able to start is the forgiveness trap that I see time and time again in what we've been taught. So, first, let's talk about why you think you need to forgive, because you didn't come up with that on your own. Someone taught you that, and we need to examine who benefits from that teaching. You have to forgive to heal. To everywhere is everywhere, right? From the time we're kids, we're taught that forgiveness is required, forgive and forget. Holding grudges will make you bitter. Forgiveness is for you, not them, which is a whole nother thing. But let it go, or eat you alive. You can't heal until you forgive. And if you grew up in religious communities, and it goes even deeper, the pressure is even stronger, right? To to err is human, to forgive divine, or forgive as God forgave you 70 times 7. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Right? There's all these different comments. So you internalize this belief or this message. Good people forgive, healed people forgive, strong people forgive. And if you can't forgive, something's wrong with you. But here's what nobody tells you: that messaging serves the person who hurt you more than it serves you. So forgiveness culture protects harm doers. Think about who benefits when you're pressured to forgive, right? And then tell me about the pressure to forgive. The person who hurt you gets to absolve without accountability, without change, without consequence. The people around you get to be comfortable because you're not dwelling on what happened. Right. And these are just in, toxic situations, what I'm talking about. Right. And so the community gets to avoid the discomfort of acknowledging that harm happened, and someone needs to be held accountable. But you're stuck trying to force a feeling you don't have, while the person who hurt you faces zero consequences. And that is not healing. That's protecting the status quo. And we don't really talk about the cultural pressure is even heavier, even just women of color in general. There's often an additional layer, because in many Black, Latinx, Asian, and immigrant communities, forgiveness isn't just encouraged, it's expected. family loyalty, respect for elders, keeping the peace, not airing dirty laundry, all of that translates to forgive, move on, don't make waves. So we're told different messaging, right? They're still your mother. Blood is thicker than water. We don't abandon family. That's just how they are. You know better. I've heard this, right? So not forgiving isn't just about you. It feels like betraying your culture, your family values, your community. But I just want you to be able to take in that honoring your culture doesn't require to dishonor yourself. So I know that can hit hard for some. So let me know, what cultural and religious messages about forgiveness did you grow up with? Right. And let me know if you resonate with any of this as well. So the guilt of not being there yet. And then there's this guilt overall. I've been having a lot this past week, people just operating off of guilt. You know, you're supposed to forgive, right? Supposed to. You've heard it 1,000 times. You might even want to forgive because you could finally then be over it, right? But you're not there. You don't feel it. And now you feel guilty for not being able to force a feeling that isn't real. So you're stuck in this loop. I should forgive them. I can't forgive them. Something must be wrong with me. I must not be healed enough, right? And I should work harder at forgiving. I still can't do it. I'm failing at healing. And that guilt keeps you more stuck than the actual harm did. So let's go into forgiveness versus moving on, and they're not the same. Okay. So let's get clear on what we're actually talking about, because I think the reason this is so confusing is that people use forgiveness and moving on interchangeably when they're actually two completely different things. What forgiveness actually is, forgiveness is an emotional release. It's when you generally let go of the anger, the hurt, the resentment. It's when you can think about what they did and not feel the charge anymore. Real forgiveness looks like, I don't want to break this down. It looks like peace when you think about them, no longer wanting them to suffer, genuine release of the emotional weight, understanding that leads just to compassion. And here's the key with this though. Forgiveness isn't is a feeling, right? You can't force it. You can't logic yourself into it. It either happens or it doesn't. Some people get there through therapy, through time, through spiritual practice, and some people never get there. And that's okay. What moving on actually is, moving on is a decision. It's a choice you make to stop letting what happened control your life. Moving on looks like building a life that doesn't include them, not thinking about them constantly, feeling neutral when they're mentioned, not charged or activated, investing your energy to your present and not your past. No longer trying to get them to understand or change. You can move on without forgiving. You can build an amazing life, be completely healed, and still not forgive what they did. Moving on doesn't require to release that anger. It just requires you to stop letting the anger run your life and your decisions. The key difference, here's how I explain it to clients, right? Forgiveness is like, I release the emotional charge around what you did. Moving on, I release you from my life and my mental space. You can do one without the other, and moving on is the one you actually need to heal. Share it if this is distinction made something click for you, because why people confuse them. The reason everyone tells you forgive to move on is because for some people, forgiveness is how they move on. Their path is peace runs through forgiveness. But that's not everyone's path, is all I'm saying. Some people move on by accepting that what happened was wrong. They deserved better, and they're choosing to build a life anyway without needing to forgive. Both, but I just want to be clear that both are valid. Both are healing. The problem is when we act like forgiveness is the only path. That is when we're going to have issues here. Now let's get into which one do you actually need. So how do you know which one you need, right? Let me give you just some guidance. You need moving on if you keep replaying what happened. You're still trying to make sense of it, right? You're waiting for them to understand slash apologize, just understand or apologize for something. You're organizing your life around avoiding them or proving something to them. You can't make decisions without considering their reaction. Your present is still controlled by your past. Moving on is a non negotiable. This is what actually frees you. You move on by accepting what happened without needing it to make sense, stopping the mental replays, building a life that's yours, not a reaction to them, releasing the need for them to get it, choosing your future over your past. And you can do all of that without forgiving them. Forgiveness is optional, and you'll know if you want it. So here's what I just look be able to tell people: you don't need just forgiveness to heal. You might want it, but you don't need it. You might want forgiveness, right? Not deep on your list. You might want forgiveness if the anger feels heavy and you generally want to release it. You want peace when you think about them. You're spiritually inclined toward forgiveness. It aligns with your values. You're moved on, and forgiveness feels like the next layer of freedom, right? There's so many different reasons why you could want something different. But if you don't want it, if the idea of forgiving them makes you feel sick, if you don't feel ready, right? And you might never feel ready, right? Let's just be real, you might not. That's valid and that's okay. You can still be completely healed. When forgiveness is actually bypassing, here's what I tend to see happen. People force forgiveness because they've actually processed the harm. They skip the anger, the grief, the rage, and jump straight to I forgive you because that's what they're supposed to do. That's not forgiveness, that's spiritual bypassing. And it keeps you stuck a lot of the times because real forgiveness can only happen after you fully felt and processed the pain. And if you're skipping the feelings to get to forgiveness, you're not healing, you're just avoiding. So if you're trying to forgive, but it feels like you're forcing it, I need you to stop. You might not be ready, or you might not need to forgive at all, and that's okay. The question to ask yourself, though, is here's how to know what you need, right? Because I want you to be able to just think about this. Ask yourself, am I trying to forgive because I genuinely want to release this or because I think I'm supposed to? If it's the second one, you're trying to perform healing for an audience, and that's not real healing. Real healing just happens when you give yourself permission to feel what you actually feel, even if that's, I will never forgive them. And I'm just at peace with that. So let's be real. Like, are you trying to? Are you trying to forgive because you want to or because you think you have to? You feel obligated to. So, how to necessarily move on without forgiving, which tends to be the next question. So, practically, how do you actually move on without this? So, let me give you just a roadmap. This is what I kind of find, but of course, can add what you need to. Step one, I want you to accept what happened without needing it to make sense. That's the hardest part for a lot of people. Moving on starts with acceptance, not acceptance that it was okay. We're not saying that. Accepting that it happened. It wasn't okay. It's not going to unhappen. So you stop asking, why did they do this? How could they? What was I supposed to learn? And you start saying, this happened. It was wrong. And I'm moving forward anyway. You don't need the story to make sense to close the chapter. Okay. Step two, stop waiting for them to change, apologize, or understand. Moving on means releasing the fantasy that they'll ever see what they did, apologize genuinely, changing into who you needed them to be, understand how much they hurt you. They might never get it, which is It's hard for a lot of people to take in. And your healing can't depend on them getting it. You're not moving on with them. You're moving on without them. And that's the point. Okay. So, step three, redirect your energy into your life. Every time you catch yourself thinking about them, replaying what happened, managing conversations or imagining conversations, I need you to redirect. Ask yourself, what in the present life needs my attention right now? Then do that thing. Call a friend, work on a goal, move your body, journal, anything that brings you back to your life. Moving on is a practice of choosing your present over your past over and over again. Step four, build evidence that you're okay without them. Create a running list in your phone or journal, evidence that moving on. Add to it every time. Add to it every time you go a full day without thinking about them. Make a choice based on what you want, not as a reaction to them. Feel genuinely happy about something in your life. Experience peace when they're mentioned, right? I want you to know when you write these down, the evidence builds over time, and eventually you'll look back and realize I actually did move on without forgiving, and I'm okay. Step five, give yourself permission. This is the big one. Give yourself explicit permission to never forgive them. Say it out loud. I might never forget what they did, and that doesn't make me bitter. It doesn't mean I'm stuck. It doesn't mean I'm holding a grudge. It means I'm honoring my truth, and that's enough. You can acknowledge the harm, feel the feelings, and move forward, all without forgiving. That's not bitterness, that's boundaries. That's self respect. That's knowing your worth. Okay. So before you go, because I know we gave quite a bit of information, I need you to hear this clearly. You do not have to forgive someone who hurt you to heal. You just have to move on. Forgiveness is optional. Moving on is not. And here's what moving on without forgiveness can look like. You build an incredible life. You're genuinely happy. You've healed the wounds. You're at peace. And when someone asks, have you forgiven them? You get to say no. And I'm good with that. Right? People are going to have their judgments, and they can listen. Their judgment doesn't have to be yours, and that's not bitterness. That's not holding a grudge. It's not being stuck. That's you choosing to honor your truth, protect your peace, and refuse to perform. Healing for people who don't understand what you've been through. You don't owe anyone forgiveness. Not them, not your family, not your faith community, not yourself. The only thing you owe yourself is freedom. And sometimes freedom looks like saying, I will never forget what you did. And then moving on. That's it, right? And so here's what I need for you. I want you to share this episode with someone who's been trying to force forgiveness they don't feel. And make sure you can, if you to tag me at A, let's normalize what moving on without forgiving is valid healing. Oh, let me know in the comments. Are you giving yourself permission to move on without forgiving? Or do you feel like you have to? Let me know. Subscribe if you have not. We are trying to make it to that 1K in this year. And this is what we do here. We have these healing conversations. And if you want more behind the scenes work, I talk about all over my Substack. And if you want a little more deeper, we talk with our, come on with yourself community, which is just those who want just a little more healing work for this process. So know that I also have the I Missed You journal that is available to you as well. It comes with a Reclaiming Me ebook if you have trouble with trying to getting back to yourself. But you can find me daily at Instagram at I'm Samantha.a, on TikTok at Moving Beyond You. And of course at Substack and The Gentle Work with Samantha. PC. Before you go, hand on your heart, deep breath with me. And I want you to say this: I release the pressure to forgive. I give myself permission to move on without forgiving. A healing doesn't require their absolute. I can build a beautiful life while still acknowledging what they did was wrong. I'm not bitter. I'm boundaried. I'm not stuck. I'm free. And I don't owe anyone an explanation for how I choose to heal. Say it again if you need to. You've been carrying the weight of should forgive for too long. You can put it down now. Forgiveness is optional. Moving on is where your freedom lies and just lives. And you get to choose your path. Take care of that brave, honest heart. I'll see you next week. And check out this next episode that YouTube is giving you.